Who's really in control of a home sale? Who has control in the sale of a house? Is it the seller or the buyer? Most of the time, the seller thinks they're in charge. But once that home hits the market, the power shifts to the buyer. They decide who makes an offer, and more importantly, they dictate the terms of that offer. Once that contract is signed, the buyer often remains in control throughout the entire process. First, they get a 10-day inspection period. This allows them to scrutinize the home and then decide to back out, renegotiate the price, or take it as is. Then they get another 5 days to submit a formal resolution of what they want fixed. As a seller, especially if you're in a contingent situation or managing 2 mortgages, you might feel pressured to accept their terms just to keep the deal from falling through. You don't want to go back to the drawing board and relist. But even after the inspections, you're still dependent on the lender. Unexpected issues with gift funds or banking delay can stop the funding entirely. And yes, there's always the chance of buyer's remorse. You might keep their earnest money, but at roughly 1% of the purchase price, it's a small consolation for a failed sale. Now, how can you take back control? So as the seller, how do you keep the upper hand? The first thing I always recommend is a pre-inspection. You hear me say this all the time. Doing this gives you a massive advantage. It helps you identify issues before a buyer ever sees them. Think about it. If a buyer finds an issue, they might demand a specific expensive contractor to fix it. If you find it first, you might be able to handle that repair yourself on your own terms. By presenting a pre-inspection offer and showing what you've already fixed, you show good faith and take initiative away from the buyer. Next, have your agent or do-it-yourself contact the lender. Find out how strong that pre-approval actually is. Do they have the funds to close? Are those funds seasoned? An ounce of prevention here, it's worth a pound of cure. That one phone call can save you weeks of stress. Now, let's talk about the auction alternative. The auction alternative, finally, let's talk about the commission. There's a huge debate right now about sellers paying buyer's agent commission. One way to bypass the traditional struggle is to sell your home at auction. A lot of people worry that no one will show up, but remember, you can set a reserve. If that price isn't met, you don't sell. In an auction, the buyer pays a buyer's premium, so you net your price and the buyer handles that extra cost. Furthermore, an auction requires the buyer to inspect the property before the sale. They know exactly what they're bidding on, and there's no contingencies afterward. Whether you choose an auction or a traditional listing, taking these steps will help you remain in control and keep the cards in your hands. If you want to ensure you stay in the driver's seat of your next home sale, reach out to KC Legacy Properties. We specialize in providing homeowners with clarity, transparency, and the tools they need to protect their equity. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt bullied by a buyer or trapped by a contract while trying to sell your house? Drop a comment below and share your experience. Let's talk about how to stop that from happening again.